Hi, it's Nick Carlisle and welcome to 2014, the first newsletter from Portfolio Builder. Today I want to talk about these four aligning factors which I know we've talked about in the past on some of these newsletters and in some of our written newsletters that go out every month. But it's worth tracking these four factors which ultimately we believe in the next 1 to 3 years, and it's already starting at the moment. These four factors are going to start aligning even more to mean that prices increase even further. So as a property investor, as a potential investor, these four things are the four things that you really should be monitoring and tracking to keep an eye on the market. So the first thing is supply and demand. Now we have talked about this in the past, but essentially in the UK, the supply of property in the UK doesn't meet the demand that we face. So a rising population, a very tight land mass, very tight planning laws, and builders not building enough housing stock. Excuse me, the councils are now started to introduce the right to buy schemes, and people in local housing, local authority housing can now achieve discounts of up to 70% on their purchase if they buy their old council house. So we've got a depleting stock of housing. So in terms of the first factor aligning, supply and demand, it's kind of a given, it's always there, and supply will never really meet the demand that we face for UK housing in the UK. The second factor is affordability. So in spite of the first factor, meaning that there's always going to be greater demand than the supply can meet, if people can't afford to buy the houses, then they won't. So they'll be forced into rental accommodation, and that's kind of what happened towards the correction in 2007-2008. Affordability over the last few years has started to ratchet downwards, and across the UK at the moment, as an average, affordability is just over 5. So house prices are 5 times people's earnings, which for a lot of areas is still very unaffordable. London, as an example, it's almost over 7, but here in the UK, in South Yorkshire where we invest, affordability is getting close towards that magic 3. So where house prices are 3 times people's earnings, that's when people will flood into the market, first time buyers in particular. Now they're being helped by the government's Help to Buy scheme, which is allowing people to buy property with just a 5% deposit. So the affordability is being artificially helped along, but that in turn will help house prices to rise. The third thing is finance, because what most people need to be able to buy property is affordable finance. And when the pendulum swung after the credit crunch to the place where banks weren't lending to pretty much anyone, it's now started to come back to some sense of normality, and you've got great products out there from some great lenders, some of the high street lenders such as Lloyds, and some of the less known lenders starting to lend not just to buy-to-let investors but to people who want to buy regular property as well, and we need to see that coming back into the market to be able to see prices rise. And then the fourth thing, probably the most important thing, is confidence. If you read the papers, if you watch the TV, you will have noticed, certainly over the last 12 months, a shift from the doom and gloom, the end of the world is nigh, we're going to get swallowed up by the mess in Europe, to a much more confident place where people are a little bit more confident. There's still quite a lot of scepticism out there, but more and more people are starting to buy property again. The government's Help to Buy scheme hit £1 billion of lending this month. So far they've lent over £1 billion, and that's only from a few lenders. A lot of the lenders that didn't come into the scheme at the start are just starting to get into their stride, so the amount of lending from that scheme alone is going to skyrocket, and again that's going to provide the funding to allow people to buy property. And when people buy property, prices will rise as the demand increases. So it's worth keeping an eye on as we go through 2014. We'll report back to you on how these four factors are aligning and go into some more detail with the specifics. But if you wanted to find out a little bit more about our views on property investing, There's numerous ways in which you can come and meet us. So here in our office in Yorkshire, we have a series of discovery days throughout the year. We're going to be at most of the major property investment shows and landlord shows across the year. The majority of those are based in London, but we have some more regional shows around the UK. So just visit our website, www.Platinum Portfolio Builder, or give us a call at the office on 01226 732 606. Thanks for listening.